Vicky's going to talk about what this is about and how this is going to work.
Well, I have been privileged to be at KRCC since 1995 in some incarnation or another, and a lot is afforded to me because of that relationship. And the sweetest one, I have to say, the sweetest thing is the connection with the community and the warmth and the love that flows to me from, you know, people in this town. It's just amazing. And I wish everyone could experience it because it's truly an addictive thing. I go to work 5 or 6 days a week and spend time with the most creative, loving, supportive, dysfunctional, insane people that you can imagine. And it's good, right? I mean, I love that. That's why I've been there so long. But it occurred to me that 3 of some of the most important people in my life have died, are gone, and they are the reason I went to KRCC and stayed there at all. And I thought it would be nice to bring them into the room tonight. I thought this would be a good place to do that for those of you who knew them and for those of you who didn't. And I have to start with Mario Valdez. Now, Mario Valdez is station manager at KRCC, and Mario is someone that is larger than life. David referenced him so correctly. He's a big, bearded, bellowing man who was more iron fist than velvet glove, but an amazing person. He fled with his family from Cuba when he was 2 years old. They settled in New York City, Queens, Brooklyn, Hell's Kitchen. And by the time he was in 3rd grade, he had declared his life's goals. He had 3 of them. One was to drive a cab in New York City, passion number 1. Passion number 2 was to be an architect and design houses. And number 3 was to run a radio station. And I'm pleased to say he achieved all 3 of those goals. The taxi cab stories would have been best from him, but he was not sentimental about what an awful, putrid job it was, and he thrived in it. He finally headed to Oklahoma to go to school, to go to college, studied to be an architect, and one thing led to another, and he ended up in Colorado. Now, there is a rumor that he got busted with a trunk full of ditchweed, but I can't confirm that. Anyway, he ends up in Colorado Springs and volunteers at KRCC. He's got a huge record collection. He's a music lover beyond reason. He's just an amazing DJ. So he volunteers in 1979. By 1980, he's station manager. He is the first full-time employee there, and he's the first paid employee at KRCC. By 1984, he has brought NPR into the fold and has struck the blueprint for KRCC, what it would be, and really what we still are in many ways. So always designing, always building. Mario had one outfit that I knew of, and it was this: a pair of beat-up, you know, slide-on Vans, blue bib overalls, and if it was a special occasion or perhaps a meeting, you know, with the president at CC, he might add a shirt. Optional. Shirt optional. But I have to tell you that that is the reason I fell in love with KRCC. Channel surfing on my, you know, turning my dial, none of this, thoughts of that. And I hit Roxy music on the radio, and it's like, oh, and the brakes went on, and it's like, what is this station? What is this music? And I became dedicated right there and then, because it was everything I wanted from a radio station and everything I had grown up with, some of those great DJs in the 70s, the way radio really, really should be. And I've tried to chase that ever since. You know, Mario, as tough as he was, had a lot of support and gentleness toward his DJs and their music shows. However, he did get his opinions across, and you could be met at the end of your show with a comment, or, for instance, during your set, the phone would ring, and you would pick it up, and, hello, Vicky, yeah, Vicky, this is Mario, your boss downstairs. Vicky, is that Grateful Dead song I am hearing playing? Yes, Mario. Oh boy, I hope it's the 11-minute version of Dark Star, Vicky. We don't hear enough of this band. Duly noted. Duly noted. Mario did die in September of 2007 after a battle with lung cancer, and he went out in a much more gentle way than I would have guessed. I got to spend some time with him toward the end of his days. So what it put me in mind of was this candy I grew up with, Charmed Sweet and Sour Lollipop, and it was this great big thick lollipop, and it was completely treacle on one side, very, very tart on the other. And the way you would work this lollipop is you would just lick the sour side until you thought your head would explode. Just when that happened, flip that thing over and hit the sugar. And that was the complete experience of that. That was Mario Valdez. Sandberg. Jocelyn Sandberg was this amazing woman, operations manager, great DJ at KRCC. She was a dear friend. I admired her a lot. You know, just like, wow, she's a DJ on KRCC. I admire her a lot. And the thing with Jocelyn is she was also a UPS worker. She delivered papers, activist, volunteer, baker. She made dough. In fact, I believe Poor Richard's still uses her recipe for the pizza dough at Poor Richard's. So keep her in your mind when you enjoy a slice. Jocelyn was bold, brash, brassy. She was a big dog lover. She wore baseball caps. She was beautiful. She was buxomy. She was a big old lesbian, and she was just awesome. The way she led through the world, the way she traveled, and the company she kept. She always made sure I had a home at KRCC, and she envisioned my future, really, more fully than I grasped it for a long time. Many great conversations. I learned a lot from her. When I think of Jocelyn, I have many stories that come to mind, two of which I can actually say tonight. One of them, a bunch of us, some of the folks who are here tonight, went to brunch at a local restaurant, Sunday brunch. So, you know, it's Sunday brunch, obvious what you're going to get there for the food, so the wait person is taking our drink orders. And, you know, it's Sunday, so we're like, oh, you know, like tea would be beautiful, or I'll have some coffee, or I'll have some juice. Jocelyn leaps to her feet and says, I'll have a mimosa. That was Jocelyn. The other thing I think about with Jocelyn is a few days before she died, it was a membership drive, and actually she's the one who wrapped it up that year. But I had been on leave because my partner and I, our second daughter was born, and so I was staying home to be with Nora. And Jocelyn's like, well, bring Nora in and I'll stay with her while you're pitching on air and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, great, cool. So that was happening, and I was nervous though, you know, I want to make sure everything was going on beautiful. So during one of my longer songs, I went back, and I look in Jocelyn's office, and she is in her chair, tipped back, feet up on her desk, totally asleep. And nestled in her very ample and beautiful bosom is Nora, just curled up, 4 months old, totally sleeping. And that was Jocelyn. That was the full picture of her right there. 2 stories of Jocelyn. She was murdered, unfortunately, sadly and tragically, tragedy of most of our lives actually, and that was in 2002, in April, unsolved. But one of the ways I've dealt with it and thought about it is someone who had the warrior spirit that Jocelyn had was probably not going to exit quietly, and right, and that was Jocelyn. That was the full of her dear friend, Lynn Akers. Lynn Akers was operations manager at KRCC. Sounds like a dangerous gig sometimes. That's why I went for music director. She's also an activist, a volunteer, a mother, a survivor, and she was that voice. She had such an amazing voice and a way to be on the radio. Hosted Morning Edition, membership drive maven. She had no problem, Lynn, coming in if you were pitching on air and grabbing the microphone right away from you. Just grabbing it away from you, going, no, wrong. And she would proceed to not only get her point across and educate, but get those phones ringing too. And there's not a membership drive that those of us who do this on air don't bring up Lynn's name or think, what would Lynn say with how that just went? Lynn was a mentor and a teacher. When I was doing the DJ training class, she came right up to me. I'm in awe of this woman. And she said, you will pass this class and you will join me here in this house of men. So once she said that, I knew there was the Holy Grail. I had to go ahead and do that. And we spent a lot of great time together. I did overnight DJ stuff. She started the thing up in the morning, so we had lots of time where we crossed over. A musician. Lynn loved music and loved playing it. At any given time, the woman was taking off with a zither or a washboard or a dulcimer, and off she was going to go to the Black Rose Acoustic Society or some folk festival. There goes Lynn. And she told me this story once about being at some event. She goes into this room and there's Molly O'Brien and Laura Love playing and singing. And she plops herself down and starts singing harmony. And she's telling me this story. I'm like, wow, Lynn, that's so amazing. Was that okay? Was that okay to do? She's like, they needed the help. Lynn Akers. She got sick in the spring of 2000. It was cancer again. She had already battled that once in her life. This time it was ovarian cancer. And she, in her illness and being plagued by so many things, hammered out her health regimen, what she wanted it to be, how she wanted to try to heal. She enlisted many of her friends, and several of you in this room tonight, to help her over the next months to try to battle this disease. And it was really an amazing time, and Lynn led the way. As sick as she got, she led the way, and what we could do to help, and how the results were, and what kind of energy she needed around her. And she had a couple of other goals during that time. One was she wanted to be able to participate in and go to her oldest daughter's wedding in the fall, which she was able to achieve. That was a really beautiful thing. The other one was to go to California to go ahead and see the whales migrate, off of the coast in San Diego. And when word of that got out, friends, listeners, fans, KRCC all came together and raised thousands of dollars for her to be able to do this, get an RV, go on out and do this thing, go see the whales. And sadly, that wasn't to happen. She got very, very ill and in the late fall and early winter, and in fact, she did die solstice in December 21st, and that would have been in 2000. So she didn't get to do that, but something that was so remarkable around that time, just before she died, she decided to go to hospice. And on her way to hospice, everyone's kind of waiting for her, where's Lynn? She has talked the ambulance drivers into driving her around Colorado Springs. So she could go ahead and visit places that meant something to her, take a look at lights and sights. I like to think she passed by KRCC again. And they finally deliver her to hospice, and then these two gentlemen show up later. They have two great big stuffed whales with them and a whale poster. Incredible. She was so moved. It was just a beautiful moment. After she died, 3 of her friends, Rick, Kathy, and Sue, had her cremated ashes, or part of them, FedExed to them in California. They went out on Rick's boat to the open sea, and they went ahead and just stayed there in the presence of all the whales migrating, and then followed in the wake and scattered her ashes just behind them. And I've thought, and I think a few people would say this, that if that were a folk song, Lynn Akers would have been putting on that 3rd part harmony to sing that. Thank you.